Hey everybody, welcome to Elder Geek's Elder Speak. Today is Monday, February 10th, 2014. My name is Randy Asenchak. I'm the editor of ElderGeek.com. Thank you for watching the show, and I want to start off this show by saying thank you to everybody who has subscribed to us. Over the weekend, we hit our 25,000th subscriber, and on our Facebook page, I think we're like too shy of 2,000 likes on there. So thank you everybody over the past, couple of years, or however many years we've been doing this now. I just want to say thank you very much. We're at 25K. This is a big marker for us, so thank you very much. But I need to go, well, I guess first things first, in the background today you're going to be seeing gameplay footage from State of Decay, the zombie Xbox Live / Steam game that I've been kind of kicking around lately. I'm not going to be doing a video review on it. I'm just kind of playing this one for fun. It's kind of mindless, and I'm enjoying it. There's a lot of problems with it, but I'm enjoying it. Today I wanted to talk about the Elder Scrolls Online, and I wanted to talk about how I'm going to be approaching my video review for the Elder Scrolls Online when it comes out. The reason why you're not seeing any gameplay footage in the background from Elder Scrolls Online is because I can't show any more video from Elder Scrolls Online. I have a set by the the rules of the NDA with Bethesda. I can only show a certain amount of video from the game, and I've almost used up the allotted time, and I still need to show the Realm versus Realm gameplay, and that hopefully is going to be coming later on this week. So I'm very sorry about that. I would love to be just showing more Elder Scrolls Online. But the reason why I wanted to talk about the Elder Scrolls Online and how I'm going to be reviewing it coming up is because, unlike a lot of games that have been coming out recently, there is an unprecedented amount of very loud hate going out towards this game. And granted, yeah, the game has problems, but the game is also, a lot further along than I think a lot of people thought. And so I guess the way I want to say is, I don't think anybody should be surprised that there's a lot of hate coming around the game. There's always hate coming around every time that an Elder Scrolls game comes out. When Morrowind came out, everybody loved Morrowind, or at least the very few people that played Morrowind when it came out really loved Morrowind. It was a niche game for a niche audience, and I think it pulled in a little bit more people than what they expected it to. Here was a high fantasy game, or here was a fantasy game, a role-playing game, had a little bit of a clunky interface, and there was no hand-holding with Morrowind, and a lot of people loved it. Myself really loved it. Then when Oblivion came out, everybody that played and loved Morrowind, I don't even want to say everybody, there was a vocal majority of people who played, I don't even want to say majority, there was a vocal group of people who played Morrowind and enjoyed it and found Oblivion to be absolute devil. And I played Oblivion, I loved it. Same thing happened when Skyrim came out. There were people who played Morrowind and Oblivion, and then when they're like, Skyrim's coming out, this is the devil incarnate now that I'm playing it. Oh, they dropped so much, they made it so much dumber, and blah, 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 blah. But you know what? I still love Skyrim. I like to install it, I love to play it, and I don't give a crap what people have to say about it. Sure, the game has problems. What game doesn't? But that's just kind of the way things go. Now, with Elder Scrolls Online coming out, and Skyrim being the most popular game in the entire franchise, selling 20 million copies, that means that whoever is going to be upset about the Elder Scrolls Online, they're also going to be upset very loudly, because they're going to be a percentage of those 20 million people who purchased the game. So, that being said, I'm going to be going into the review completely ignoring everything that everybody has to say about what they think about the Elder Scrolls Online and why they hate it. For many reasons, but I kind of have an order of things that I want to hit down here. There's people out there who feel that since Elder Scrolls typically, or has been, a single-player experience, that Elder Scrolls Online is somehow going against what this franchise stands for, which I think is kind of silly. It's Bethesda's franchise. They can do whatever the hell they want with it. Having played it, I feel like it doesn't go against what the franchise stands for. I feel like it's waist deep in lore. I think there's more lore, and there's more and a better story in this than some of the Elder Scrolls I've played. People are calling it a WoW clone. It's not a WoW clone. There's open dungeons in it. There's ridiculously huge realm versus realm gameplay in it. There is just a ton of stuff that WoW doesn't or hasn't done. And I would also love to remind everybody that when WoW came out, it was an unpolished piece of turd, and now it's this gigantic thing. I feel like that Elder Scrolls Online has a fair amount of polish, and the game isn't finished yet. It's still in beta. Yet another reason why I can't be super, super critical or super, super praiseworthy of the game, because it's still in beta. You can't judge a race without people crossing the finish line first. And if you call a race based on the person who's, first after, the first quarter of a lap, you're out of your mind. People are calling it Skyrim Online. It's not Skyrim Online. I'm playing in a different realm. I'm playing in the Elven, realm. So I'm not even seeing Skyrim at all. There's nothing Skyrimish about it. So yeah, there's a lot of negativity going into this game, and I'm not here to defend the game either. I'm here to just tell you that when you're going into it, to take what everybody has to say with a gigantic grain of salt. Even me. If you're a proper and good consumer, you need to be taking what everybody has to say with a grain of salt. And that being said, I put in a really long amount of time into how much I played The Elder Scrolls Online before I put that review together. Based on the limited amount of time that I could put that, how much time I could allot to making that video and putting it forward, I tried to give as many people as much information about the game as I think that it was possible. And I didn't want to get too into the nitpickies or the super praisies, because that's not the way previews are kind of generally supposed to work. I want to take this moment and honestly say shame on you to a ton of the professional reviewers out there who only played to, say, level 5 or level 8, or put in 8 hours of the game and then said, this is boring, I don't want to do this anymore. I mean, that's our job as critics, to play a game to a moderate amount of time to completion if possible, but to get a proper gauge on the game and then inform your audience. I mean, I will say this, the intro portion to Elder Scrolls Online is pretty boring, but I feel like it picks up very quickly. I feel like the introduction to the game has zero to do with what the rest of the game entails. And I feel like a lot of these reviewers, and I've read a ton of previews from a lot of professional and high-end critics out there, and I normally don't say these bad things about other critics, but I mean, come the hell on. Is it really that hard to be a video game critic? I mean, maybe you need an easier job than being a video game critic. Bethesda gave everybody a 3-day window. It might have even been a 3.5-day window to go in and preview this game, and it was over a weekend. And if you couldn't devote more than 8 hours to the game to play it and to tell your audience about the game, then hand it off to a different writer on your staff. If you happen to be the editor, say, hey, who can devote some real time to this so we know exactly what we're looking at? But instead, it absolutely sickens me to see that there were, I'm not going to name names, but I can count at least 4 or 5 from way bigger named reviewers than myself who were like, oh, I played for 6 hours and I didn't like it, and here's why. Here's my 3-page essay as to why I hate this game. Here's, I got to level 8 and I feel like this game is going to go, it's not going to sell that well and people are going to be pissed off because it's broken, and here's the reasons why. What? There's so many games out there that I wanted to give up on before I gave them a full review. There's been a ton of games where I was just like, oh my god, this tutorial is terrible, or this interface is terrible. Some of my favorite games I hated initially. Mount and Blade and Mount and Blade Warband. Once you start up those games, they're terrible. They are atrocious. When I started playing that game, I'm like, this game looks like crap. The interface looks like crap. I have no idea what the story is. But ask anybody who has played that game. They love that game. And with good reason. It's an amazing game. It has a rough start to it for somebody who's going right into it. And so, I mean, I'm not saying that, that Elder Scrolls Online is a great game, but I mean, that is our job as critics, to give it more time than what it's deserved. If you're a standard person out there who happened to play over the beta weekend, or you happen to have access to the beta and you said to yourself, you know what, I made it to level 5, it doesn't seem like it's for me, that's fine, great, go ahead, that's you. You're a user, you did it, and you pushed on. But you're not a critic. Thousands of people are not depending upon you and what you have to say about a product. So I feel like that was just completely irresponsible from a lot of outlets out there. And just drives me crazy. So anyway, going into this video review, when the review comes out, I would like for people to know exactly about me and what kind of product, what they should expect from me. One, I want everybody to know that I'm a guy who has loved fantasy my entire life. I'm the kind of guy who loved fantasy despite it being incredibly uncool for the very longest time. And since Elder Scrolls Online going into this, if it's being uncool for kind of liking it going into it, that's okay. I'm used to being completely uncool. Thus the name Elder Geek. Let's see. I'm a guy who loves the Elder Scrolls. Ever since Morrowind, I've been absolutely addicted to the Elder Scrolls. My favorite one out of the 3 that I've played, I have not played the, Elder Scrolls 1 or 2, but I did play, Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim, and all of their expansions. But out of those 3, Oblivion is my favorite. Let me see. I'm also a guy who who loves MMOs. I prefer single-player games, but MMOs kind of hold a special place in my heart. I started with Ultima Online. That's probably my favorite, and my second favorite is Dark Age of Camelot. There are a lot of Dark Age of Camelot inspirations in Elder Scrolls Online. A lot of the development team from Dark Age of Camelot is over in Elder Scrolls Online, so that should give you a clue. Yeah. So I guess that's that. Again, I just kind of want to remind everybody that there's a limited amount of video footage that I can show. So when my Realm versus Realm preview comes out later in the week, it's not going to be as long as my Player versus Environment preview. I kind of got a little bit carried away with that. I probably should have curtailed that a little bit. So yeah. One final thing before I kind of hammer out here, and if you've listened to me ramble this long, thank you. But someone actually had said that, or they had inferred or accused, I don't even know how I want to say that, but that I might have been paid off by Bethesda to give a good preview for their game, which is the biggest pile of bullshit I've ever heard in my entire life. I mean, one, don't accuse somebody of that by calling their integrity into question like that, because it's just, would you go into your doctor and say you probably went to a shitty medical school? If a cop pulled you over on the side of the road, would you say, how was your weekend at police training? Is that all the training you needed was one weekend? So don't call out a critic about his integrity unless you have solid proof showing that his integrity is in question. And so that being said, I can tell you right now that the number of times that a developer has come to me or a publisher has come to me and promised me preferential treatment or a paycheck or anything else like that, the number of times that that's happened in exchange for a good review is exactly 0 times. And if it's ever happened, the number of times that I would say, okay, I will give you a good review in exchange for X amount of dollars or even just a ham sandwich will be 0 times. I have more integrity than that. I have never taken a paycheck for a review. I never shall. I do realize that negative influence from developers and publishers is a very real thing. It is something that reviewers have to keep an eye out for. Good reviewers can put up blockers about that. I know plenty of people within the industry. I've given bad reviews on games for people that I consider as a good colleague, like someone who I can chit-chat with and call them friend and be friendly with them. And I've given them bad reviews, and a lot of times they will thank us for it. Critics, they will thank critics for giving poor reviews, unless it's like a poor review with no reason behind it. They like the fact that you gave attention to their game. They like the fact that even though you've given negative attention to their game, it's still attention. People out there, more people will have heard about the game, even if it's from a negative outlet. More people will have heard about the game. There's actually a perfect case of that. Total Biscuit, like a couple of weeks ago, gave a thrashing review on one game or another that nobody had ever even heard of before. And the sales for that game skyrocketed. So, that's that. Negative influence from publishers and developers is a real thing. What's an even more real thing and an even greater threat is negative influence from viewers. Viewers who are saying, oh, this game is absolute bullshit and you need to call it out for these reasons X, Y, and Z, and doing it in mass. That's a horrible practice to do. You want your critics to be completely free of opinion before they go in and form their own. And to bully them into, possibly saying something they might not believe is a horrible thing. So we need to have integrity. We critics need to have integrity, both against publishers and developers, but also against our own fans. We're kind of like this odd middleman that nobody loves, but everybody hates, or, nobody hates, but nobody loves at the same time. So that's that. Haven't taken a paycheck, but I'm also not going to be swayed by anybody's opinion as to what the game is beforehand going in. That's that. I won't be. And so when the game comes out, or if Bethesda gives review copies early to press, I will be more than happy to call out all of the negative points that I found about the game, which were many, and I will also call out the many positive things that I found about the game, which also were many. So it's an MMO. It's gigantic. There's a ton of things that they're going to do right. There's a ton of things that they're going to do wrong. But in order for me to do my job, and in order for all critics everywhere to do their job, they need to invest themselves into the game. And they need to give the full amount of time that it's due. Considering Elder Scrolls Online is an MMO, it's a gigantic game. Most likely I'll end up doing the review in 2 parts. I tried to do a 2-part review with Final Fantasy 14 online, or Final Fantasy 14, but I could only get like 1 through 30 done. I never had the time to go back into the game as much as I would love to. Been working on other projects. So I might have to break this up into multiple parts as well. Yeah, that's that. I started this one off in like a good mood, being like, yay, happy 25,000. And in the end, I don't think anybody can really understand how absolutely upset and how terrible that is for critics out there to just kind of give up on a game with only a couple of hours over an entire weekend that they had time to do by only getting to level X over the time that they had to play it. The game's been in development for 5 years. There's hundreds of hours of gameplay in this to cover. You could probably even just do a 20-minute review on the crafting system alone in the game. But to just play for a few hours on an MMO and then give up on it is a really shitty way to preview it. Maybe you shouldn't be reviewing MMOs. Maybe you should go back to just doing single-player games, or even just, local multiplayer games where it's not as deep of an experience as an MMO. MMOs are hard to review. It takes the right kind of person to review them. I'm not saying I'm the right kind of person to review them, but when I do them, I try to do them as right as possible, so that both consumers have a great idea as to what they're getting into when they get the game, but also at the same time, I guess that's it. Just trying to make sure that the consumers have a full idea as to what's going to happen when they get into the game. By the way, I guess before I go, somebody had asked in Facebook. Let me actually bring up the question, because I said I would answer his question. Maybe I did already. I don't know. On Facebook, Danny wrote, will you address if it's good enough for fans of the Elder Scrolls that are new to the 2 MMOs in general? I haven't played any MMOs in the past. Speaking with a lot of my other friends who are playing in the beta, and based on my own experience as an MMO fan, or as an Elder Scrolls fan, some of them in the beta are not MMO fans, some of them are, and the consensus among the people who are Elder Scrolls fans, not just Skyrim fans, Elder Scrolls fans, they're really enjoying it so far, because the lore is super deep, because the story so far seems to be pretty good. I don't know how the story ends. I mean, there's still a lot of loose ends. There's still a lot of, pretty big bugs in the game. And at the same time, I'm also trying to not read the story as much. Like, I'm reading the story a little bit, but I'm gonna have to go through it all again when the final version of the game releases, and so I want it to be as fresh as possible for that time. Yeah, that's that. Been going on for 20 minutes now. This was a long one. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate it. I'd love to hear your comments below. I'll talk to you tomorrow.